Hello and welcome back to the Genesis Designs and Modelcraft bench, and I've got another quick inbox here, and it's something maybe a little out of the ordinary for this channel. It's a Trumpeter Hms Dreadnought, and the reason the box is at a jaunty angle is that it doesn't fit under the camera. It's not the biggest box in the world, you see, it's not stupid big, but doesn't fit under the camera, so I'm going to pull parts out of it straight away. But I have to say, you're not here for a box review, but it is a very sturdy box, which is nice. Voila! And first thing that comes out of the box is the hole. So let's see if I can get this bag open without another spectacular bag cutting fail. So this is the 1/350th scale HMS Dreadnought, and you're probably all sitting there thinking, oh, I didn't know you did ships. And the fact of the matter is I don't. I am primarily and unashamedly an aircraft modeller. But, you know, I am also actually just a modeller, and I like models of things that look cool, and I like cool models. And sometimes I like building models for models' own sake, you know, it doesn't matter what the subject is. And one of the other things I do with my time is gaming online, and one of the games I play is World of Warships. So I do have some interest in floating vessels, and of course as well my grandfather served in the Royal Navy, so there's certainly a link, and I do think ships are kind of cool, but particularly models of ships. I love the way they look complicated, for want of a better word. They can look really, really detailed, lots of things and bits going on, and of late I've had a hankering, I suppose, to build a ship model. Now I do have a couple of ship models in the stash. I have a Flower class corvette because that's what my grandfather served on. I have an HMS Hood because everybody does, and I have an HMS Ark Royal, the World War II aircraft carrier. But the common theme that all of those models have is that they're quite large, quite complicated, and in the case of the Hood there's a lot of aftermarket in with it as well. And I wanted to start my ship model building career, because I really have built very, very few ship models in my life, with something I could build straight out of the box or very close to it that would still be a nice build, and I've settled on this. And from a quick look through the box, it's just arrived today, I think I've probably made a good choice. So here's the hull, moulded in two halves, very standard stuff. The portholes, port lights if you like, are quite deeply moulded, so you could drill them out, but I don't think there's particularly any need. And there's some fine raised detail for the waterline and a few other details. And then inside you've got these immense sockets, and they're actually for some hull strengtheners spacers, which we'll have a look at in a minute. Very nicely moulded. And another thing I have to say about this kit, it's very Trumpeter in terms of the way it's packed. A lot of these sprues have the foam protection. It's a really nice touch. So I got this kit from Hannons. I bought this myself. The price of this kit is £54.99, so it's not an inconsiderable price, but equally it's not absurd money, and some of the latest modern models are going for some pretty serious money now. So this is Sprue A. This has got some funnels on it, some little boats, and just various bits. I'm not going to attempt to name all of the parts, nor give them their proper nautical terms, because let's face it, I don't know them. But typical of Trumpeter in my experience, there is a little bit of flash on these parts, but for the most, excuse me, I've said part again, for the most part they're quite crisply done, and they have an adequate level of detail. They're not blow you away gorgeously detailed, but they're certainly not rubbish either. I've got one of the foam protected ones, which has got hull strakes in it. So once you get in, this sort of foam packaging stuff's just sellotaped. There you go, and that just protects the parts inside, and it protects the other parts in the kit from these as well. So these are the the sort of bilge strake parts, and they're really quite distorted look. So that's going to be fun, but you can just glue them on bit by bit and straighten them out. But they're very fine. And lots of other sticky looking things. Again, excuse my lack of knowledge of the terminology. If you want an expert review of the kit, you're in the wrong place, but it's just for interest's sake that I am showing you this. What you get for your money in a modern ship kit. So this one's just interleaved with some of the polystyrene. Gun turrets, 3 of. Some guns which have got hollow ends, which is nice. Lots and lots of smaller guns, secondary weapons there, and some small sort of rowing boat style boats. Also propellers, which I think should be called screws if you're talking about a boat. Sorry, a ship. Same sprue again. I think this is 2 of the same, aren't we? DD, yeah, Delta sprue, 2 of. So that's really pretty much covering your armament there. You get a whole bunch of smaller packets. So you've got your superstructure all moulded in one piece. This is some very clever moulding. I'm going to leave it in the bag for the moment. Again, it's wrapped with some foam for protection, but beautifully thin moulding on the side there. You can see through it quite happily. Deck blanks all moulded in. It's really nicely done. Trumpeter, when they're on their game, can do a good job of things. This one, another selection of small craft in here. Again, you know, very competent moulding. It's not blow you away, but it's very, very competent, and certainly adequate for the scale. Getting down now. It's got some more superstructure in here. Now this isn't an 84 level Japanese battleship, it's relatively simple, so there's not too much going on, but you get some intermediate decking areas here. Bit of mast stuff. And again with that really, really thin side all moulded in. And not at the expense of try and get the angle right. A lot of times with these on older kits, older sort of ship models, these are moulded in. They're much thicker than this for a start, but they also tend to feature a large sort of mould seam along the bottom edge or along on this front face. And this has got some light flash kicking about, but there's no nasty mould seam there. It's quite cleanly done. This one, what lurks within the foam? Well, didn't have a bag file yet, but I'm having a sellotape file instead. There we go. Nothing scripted about this, is there? Now you can see why this is wrapped in foam. So we've got a nameplate there with the embossed name of the ship, and lots of fine. Oh, I think these are the poles that go along the side of the hull. I think that's for the anti-torpedo netting that these were fitted with, that this ship had, or this era of ships had. Could be wrong, of course, I don't know what I'm talking about. And then finally, I won't bother taking these out of the bags, there's not really any need, but this is a stand, 4-part stand to pop the ship on when you're done, and this is that internal hull reinforcement I was talking about that plugs into those big sockets on the inside of the 2 hull halves. And then the last part inside here is the deck. And then another piece of protective foam. Take that out of the way. Not really sure, I was just protecting the bollards, but then there wasn't any on the front ones or the rear ones. So there's your main deck moulding. Just to give you an idea of how clean this is. You know, you've not got any sort of sloping sides on any of these moulded in details. It's all very, very competent indeed. So that's your deck. And then, and if I'm honest, this is one of the reasons I chose this particular kit. You get 4 PE frets of PE. This appears to be 2 of the same. It is. So there's 2 photo etch fret Bs. Bring it up. A plethora of circular plates which are fixed down to the deck, and some ladders and various sort of reinforcing members, along with some crane arms. So there's 2 of those in there, and the fret itself is quite thick, but the etch has been cut out quite dramatically, so the etched parts aren't too thick. Camera's loving this, isn't it? So sorting out the brightness levels for that. And then this set here, there's photo etch A, and you can see more ladders, the funnel gratings, and these crazy Aztec looking parts are also funnel parts. So I have had a quick look through the instructions. Some various hatch covers and things, and more sort of structural members. Quite a few ladders. And then the last one, fret C, is railings. Now these railings only cover the upper superstructure. So if the ship's meant to have railings along the whole sides on the decks, these aren't it. These only do the upper works, which we'll see in the instructions in a second. And there's also, as you can see, a piece of chain which will be for the anchors. And I'm not taking them out because this kind of photo etch is very easily damaged, and I think the chain's having a good go at damaging this as it is, but I'll leave them in until I'm ready to use them for that reason. Okay, so it's a quick ramble through the sprues. Let's have a look at the instructions. And again, these are very typical Trumpeter fare. This is your painting and marking guide as befits the subject. There's not really much going on. A couple of different deck colours. It's all one colour this hill, no funky camo here, just whole red and then grey. Gives you the colour call outs in Mr. Hobby Vallejo, Model Master Tamiya and Humbrol. I don't know how accurate this is. I would never put my life on Trumpeter colour call outs being accurate, but I'm not a shipspert and I'm not really that bothered as long as it looks something like I'm happy. But there's your colour and marking, paint and marking guide. And then the instructions, again standard Trumpeter fare, printed on normal paper, and it's quite a substantial booklet. I'm not going to go through it stage by stage, I'll just flick through, but first off, the Sprue Layout guides, which is nice, and then it just goes through obviously the stages. You just start by gluing the whole together, and then you just build it up and build it up and build it up. Super deck it calls this piece. There you go, gluing those hole strakes into position. There is a fine recessed guide as to where these go. Hopefully, yeah, you can see that all the way along the hole, so it's easy to see where that's supposed to go. And the same is true of the pylons for the drive shaft, prop shafts and the propellers, just moulded in the back there. Just fitting that lot just there. And typical of ship models, there's just lots and lots going on, lots of small parts getting added at each stage. And the photo etch is featured throughout, and it's just called out as PE, and it tells you which fret it's off. Here's what I was talking about with the railings. They only cover these upper work areas, they don't cover the main decks. Fair bit of photo etch goes into the mast arrangement there. See it all coming together bit by bit. 5 of one type of turret, 1 of the other. There's your plethora of small ships. And it really is getting you to build this whole thing up into pretty much, well, actually a complete unit really, before you ever fit it, which I'm not sure is the best way to go about it, if I'm honest, but I probably won't do it that way. There you go, fitting all those circular hatches I mentioned before from the photo etch. And these are the rods, which I say I think is for the torpedo netting, but don't shoot me if I'm wrong. And there you are, fitting that complete superstructure to the hull. Ta-da! And then adding your main armament and just, you know, a few cranes and stanchions and things. And there it was done, and that's finally just showing you, fitting it onto the stand. There is a decal sheet in here too. It's hardly comprehensive. Sellotape together, goodness me, Trumpeter. There. Simply British flag, a Royal Navy ensign, and a couple of Dreadnought nameplates. That's all you get, but you get the flags in both fluttery form and straight form. So if you wanted to, you could attach the decal to some some foil of some sort and make it twirly if you wanted. And there you go. So that's, as I say, just a quick canter through this kit of HMS Dreadnought. Now, as I say, I'm not a ship modeller per se. I do have an interest up to a point, but I'm never going to have a flotilla or a home fleet of ship models. But I will, and I do want to build a few, and I will. So they'll all be of subjects that are either important to me or important historically in some form. And I don't think you can argue that HMS Dreadnought is anything other than important. It's sort of heralded battleships of the modern age, really, didn't it? But I just thought I'd have a quick look through the kit, show you what you get for your money. It does seem like a lot of money when you look at it, £55. I use my carefully calibrated brand new cutting mat. I can tell you that it's about 46 centimetres long. It's not tiny, it's just a nice size. It's not so big that it's going to be difficult to house it, but it's not so small that it's going to be super fiddly to work on. And I think, looking at the parts, it's very, very nicely moulded. It's typical Trumpeter, but good Trumpeter, so I'm quite happy with it, and I think it looks like pretty decent value. I don't plan to feature this as a full build on the channel. I've bought this as something that I just want to build for myself, and, you know, just dip in and out of it. Videoing things does add a lot actually to the process, you'd be surprised, but one thing that does spring to mind with it is it might make a good springboard to do a little Book of Genesis video on handling photo etch, maybe, we'll see. But there you go, that's a little bonus. Wasn't included in the upcoming inbox series because I hadn't got it yet, but here it is. So thanks for watching, hope that was useful in some way, if only so that if you are considering buying this kit you can see what you get for your money. So that all that remains for me to say is the usual: look after yourselves, look after each other, and Genesis out.